Welcome to From the Shed End. As always, myself, T Dot. I'm joined by no other than Kojo. So I'll let you introduce yourself first, Kojo. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. For those that don't know me, Kojo from the Free Midfield podcast. Also, sometimes on Don Robbie, where you can see me continue my go to watch Man United and win no games record. And yeah, other places as well. Usman, shoot the defense as well, still every now and then. So yeah, man, that's me. How you doing, bro?
Yeah. I'm good, man. I'm good. You know what? It's been a while, man. I've been trying to get you on. I should have got you on a lot sooner. Yeah, it's just been one of those things, obviously makes sense to have you on now. Big game coming up tomorrow. But yeah, man, let's start. I want to start with United first, actually, because I think it's been a bit turmoil. It's been a bit up and down, roller coaster to say the least. But I think back to the days when United, obviously, we're talking about the Fergie time. Giggs, Van Nistelrooy, Van Persie, Gary Neville. Could go on. Andy Cole, Dwight York. All these players that have come through. The structure seemed set up correctly under Ferguson. What do you think over the last couple of years has gone wrong for? Obviously, the Glazers must be a massive part of this, but what do you think has gone wrong for United in terms of what's happened over since Fergie left? What's gone wrong for United?
I tend to put it on. Excuse me. I tend to put the blame a lot on Ed Woodward. Or as I like to call him, Woody Woodpecker. The reason I say that is because look, when we got taken over by the Glazers, it was a mess. They plunged us into debt. We were a well-run club. All the money we made was made by commercially by the fans, all that. So we're a well-run club, no debts, no nothing. And then they took us over and plunged all their debts into the club. But the one thing they didn't do was change the system. David Gill was still in charge of what he was supposed to be in charge of. Sats Ferguson was still manager, and we had the right setup built for success. That's why even after that takeover in 2005, we went on to win the Champions League, the Premier League 3 years in a row. We were still successful, very successful. Obviously, when we lost Ronaldo, the replacements weren't brilliant. You lose a world-class player, ideally you want to replace that quality, but we still had enough to go and win things with Sats Ferguson. And then if you fast forward to David Gill leaving and Sats Ferguson at the same time, which I think was a bigger loss for me than David Gill. This Alex, don't get me wrong, it's Alex Ferguson, the greatest manager in my opinion. But the man in the boardroom that allows a manager to do what he wants is so key.
Yeah.
When we lost that and Woodward came in, I remember one of Woodward's first statements was, "We want to assert our dominance in the transfer window. We want to be known as the kings on the transfer window, beat Real Madrid, beat Barcelona, beat this team, that team." And then he mentioned something about the Galacticos. And what worried me about that was the Galactico team is iconic for the quality of players that they had.
Of course, yeah.
But the level of success wasn't that high. They didn't win too much. And you think a team of that quality and they keep on adding players on top of that, you think they'll be dominating Champions Leagues and so on. The decimal that they won when Gareth Bale scored and Ronaldo scored in that final against Atletico, they waited since 2001.
It's a long time.
Yeah, a long time, So that did worry me. But, that was the key reason for me. Because now look at all the other clubs. And the basis of why they're successful is still the same thing. They've got a manager they trust. They got owners that allow them to do what they want. They've got a man in the boardroom they can trust. And when they want players, what happens? They get the players for them. It's a very simple system. That's why, Rannick now is saying stuff like, the formula for success is not that difficult. It's very easy to notice what you need and just get it. So, yeah.
Just speaking on sort of Rangnick and his time as the interim, because I'll be honest, when I saw your signings for this season, Sancho, sort of Varane coming in, then it tipped it with Ronaldo. I'm not gonna lie, I did say potentially for the Premier League, United should be in that conversation, and this is off the back of, there's still a lot of work. I think you look at the midfield. I think you look at the fact that a lot of United fans criticised Fred and McTominay a lot throughout the season, but I still think there was enough in that team, to at least get something out of it. And I with a caveat, let me put a caveat in as well. I did say without Ollie as manager. I think Ollie being the manager at the time was was a hindrance because the team was almost set up to do pretty well. I'm not saying maybe the Premier League was an unrealistic achievement, but I think still with that team in place, I think it should still be doing something more so. And I think Ollie being there definitely sort of dampened, messed up everything for the start of the season. But what's your thoughts on Rangnick, his interim sort of role at the moment and what he's done? But also, do you think that the club still is not underachieving, but do you still think there's a lot of work to do in terms of bringing in who you need to bring in, take out some of, the Jesse Lingards, etc., those kind of players?
So Rangnick's the issue with Rangnick coming in as an interim, which is the second time we've done that in the last 2 or 3 years. What I thought that was a bad decision. It was a hindrance because knowing that he's interim, if you want to call him just manager, there's a big difference there. The word in front of manager is so important because as the players, and even players that want to maybe come in the future, if you go to the January transfer window and you hear Manchester United are interested in you, you say, okay, Ralph Rangnick's manager for 5 months. Who's next? Will they want me there? Do I want to come to a club where there's still so much uncertainty over what would actually be the key position at the club? I don't know. So that's not to criticize him. I'm just saying on a club level, I didn't think that's a good idea to give him the term interim manager. I think just calling him manager and saying he signed a short-term deal because he's old as well, so he's signed a short-term deal, but he's looking to help the club progress and all that. I think would have made things a little bit different. However, that said, you asked me how much work there is to do. I've been saying for a long time now that we needed, in fact, no, go back to the summer, sorry. I can't remember what show it is. I keep forgetting. I need to find the show. Right. I was on a show, and after we signed Sancho, Varane, not Ronaldo yet, I said we still needed 9 new players. And they were looking at me like, what's going on? Are you insane? I said, no, it's not about 9 players to be in the starting 11. There's a lot of backup that's not good enough. That needs to go. And there's a lot of first teamers or first team starters that would be okay for squad players, not for leading United into trying to get into the top 4 or potentially a title challenge. And I said that because a lot of the players have unconvinced for a lot of years. I usually compare them to Tottenham and Arsenal. Tottenham and Arsenal fans as well. Just like Man United fans, we make excuses for a lot of players.
Yeah.
Under this manager, they can do this. It's not the right system. If they get 1 or 2 more players in these places, they are ready. I'm just like, we're not. And when we signed Ronaldo, I was excited because I genuinely feel like we still needed a striker because Martial had 1 good season, then the next season was terrible.
Cavani's gone AWOL.
And he was even older than we had 1 year left. Now, don't get me wrong. People saying that, why are you excited about Ronaldo? He's old. He's a short-term thing, 2-3 years tops. But the issue is we needed someone that was a potent goal scorer. We needed someone that's unbelievably fit. More than anything, unbelievably fit. Because Martial had so many injury issues last year, and Cavani is fit like every 2 weeks. So, we make excuses for these guys, but when you bring in quality, your job is to supply that quality. But as the season progressed, by September or October, my number went from 9 to 13. because I'm not blinded. Look, De Gea, fantastic for Man United over the years, fantastic. But we need someone to compete with him. Dean Henderson is going to compete with him. Lee Grant and Tom Heaton know their roles, so they're not going to be competing for the number 1 spot. That's fine. But you have to bring in someone that's an immediate threat to him because Henderson played off the basis that United fans, which is true, the idea that he's better with his feet as a goalkeeper, but you still have to be a good goalkeeper first. It's the same thing I say about defending. People can talk about bringing the ball out from the back and passing, but your primary job is to defend. If you can't do that, you're not good enough. So, De Gea, Luke Shaw, honestly, I've had enough of him for a long time. Partly Man United's fault as well because he is coming back from an injury. But, United was surprised. So the guy broke his leg, 6 years ago now? And he still had screws in there, naturally. And when the surgery for the screws to come out was coming, they were surprised that surgery was happening. That tells you where the club is. So Luke Shaw's one. Tellez, for me, was a short-term thing.
Yeah.
Xhaka, I really prefer not to speak. Eric Bailly. The list goes on. Eric Bailly because I like him, but what's the point of having a player that is fit for 2 weeks every 3 months?
It's not. It's you can't rely on him at all.
Exactly. So the list goes on. There's so many players that I'd get rid of. Obviously, I haven't mentioned one very, very, very obvious name in particular.
The captain.
Exactly that. But I think that's a given for most people. Yeah, but yeah, no, the job is huge, man. The job is huge. I don't envy the new manager coming in.
I just think as well, because there's a lot in terms of when we talk about depth in the squad, it's not just about the depth, it's the quality in depth that comes with it as well. There's a lot of that at Chelsea, because I think, you know, looking at the squad that we had at the start of the season or the back end of last season, one of the things that was crying out for Chelsea was a proven number 9 sort of goal scorer who's proven to score goals. That was one of the things we were missing. We had Havertz, we tried Werner in that role. I think I'm going to say even Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think played up front one game, couple of games as well. But we never had a Lukaku who at the time we thought was the missing piece to the puzzle, and it obviously hasn't worked out. But what do you think in terms of Lukaku? Because I think obviously he's been at United, he's been at Chelsea twice now. He's been in the Premier League a couple of times with Everton. I think with West Brom as well. I think he was there in the Premier League. So he's had multiple opportunities in the Premier League. 2 big clubs, United and Chelsea. Hasn't really done what he's supposed to have done. I think there was a really good season. His first season at United was pretty good. I think it was 18, maybe 18, 19 goals, might be 20, I can't remember. Yeah. But he had an okay season. He hasn't done that at all at Chelsea. We haven't really got that for him. But do you think it's the league? Do you think it's the fact that he can't compete in the league, or he can go to Serie A and he can do it there? Or do you think it's just a system thing? Maybe it's a managerial issue. Do you think it's a bit of both?
All right, so I'm gonna challenge the theory from. I didn't know the feeling among Chelsea fans that you felt like you needed a striker.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you did, or maybe you did, but I didn't think you needed someone to start. That was based off. So I'm a sorry, what's going on with my voice? I'm a huge Kai Havertz fan. Huge from his time at Leverkusen, right? And what you had going on with him from towards the end of the season with Tuchel up to that Champions League win was someone whose movement was very, very good. It's still very good, actually. Good movement, quite confident in front of goal. I mean, in recent time, he hasn't looked like it, but more time in his career so far, he hasn't looked confident in front of goal. I feel like he had the right system going with him as your number 9 or false 9 or whatever the role would be. So when you sign Lukaku now, my issue with Lukaku is this. So the system thing, I cannot give an excuse for him. I just can't do it, because when you signed him, I said, I was on Usman's show and I said, I don't think this is going to work. And the reason why I said I don't think it's going to work is because based off his time at United, the team was catered around him. It was for him to score goals. That was the be-all and end-all of Man United Football Club. And, you know, I don't criticize players for scoring against small clubs. People call that stat padding. I don't believe in that term.
Yeah, I don't either.
Whoever's put in front of you, you have to score. That's your job, right? But the big games, even if you don't score, I need you to have an impact. The numbers thing doesn't really concern me. I need to know what you're doing on the pitch brings a lot to your team so that your team can find a way to win the game. And I've not seen that with him at Man United. I didn't see it with him at Inter Milan, and I didn't see it at I haven't seen it so far at Chelsea. And people can question me about the Inter Milan thing because he has got goals against AC Milan, the derby, obviously. But scoring the 5th goal in a 5-2 win does not constitute as being a game changer. That's not a game
Game's
changer.
Dead.
The game is done. Exactly. That's the game ender. That's all it is. But the game was already done at 4-2. AC Milan were out of it. It was done. They recognized that they were not coming back into this game. And more so, since they've sold Lukaku, they're not top of the table right now, but they're still in the title challenge. And Edin Dzeko has made it look like they don't miss him. So when Lukaku comes into Chelsea now, my thing is, okay, people are saying that, again, they need to build or cater to you to get goals in, whatever the reason may be. You really need to step up now, because you scored a lot of Premier League goals, but not a lot of them are big game goals. And that's what separates a striker from being a good striker or a great striker to a world-class striker. If Chelsea are looking for a world-class number 9, someone to lead them in the title charge and maybe defend that Champions League title, you have to be the man. He's gone from scoring against Arsenal earlier this season to that crazy statement that he made in that interview about Inter Milan and going back, to now being benched in the biggest of Chelsea games this season. And he's kind of, I don't like being proven right in these things, because when I criticize a player, I want to be proven very wrong. That's how I do it. I always say, look, I will say how I feel about a footballer, but my end goal is for me to go on a podcast one day and say, I am damn sorry. I apologize. I should not have spoken about you like that because you've proven me wrong. Just slap in the face. And I deserve it. But that means that you've done your job. And he hasn't done that. So for me, I think Chelsea are still looking for that striker, because Lukaku is not going to be the guy to lead them. And he's also, 28, 29?
Yeah, 29 nearly.
Now, exactly. If he's not doing it now for Chelsea, and Chelsea are an immediate club. Right now, yes, you bring in a few more younger players. You're building for a lot more of a long-term future for the club, and that's great. That's how it should be. But you brought this guy in to be the immediate guy. He's in his peak years. He's just entered. Now we want to see the best of Lukaku. I don't think you're going to see that at Chelsea. And that's not Chelsea's fault either. It's not Tuchel fault either. I think it's his fault.
I agree with a lot of that. I agree. I think, there's times when, I said on a podcast only the other day that there's been times when Thomas Tuchel's put him into the team, sometimes probably wrongfully, maybe he shouldn't have started that game or whatever the case, but there's times where he's been put in the team. His job is to score goals. He hasn't done that. I think back to the Real Madrid game, I think recently at Stamford Bridge, he had a brilliant opportunity, header. I don't know how he doesn't score that. Yeah. And it's moments like that where you go to the other end and you see Karim Benzema putting the ball away, scoring the goals that he needs to score. He's got a brilliant header, I think, in the same game. And it's those things that separate you from being a Karim Benzema to a Romelu Lukaku. And that's the difference. And I can see why City don't necessarily need a number 9, because the way they're set up, for instance, is their front three is very versatile. It's adaptable. They can swap things around. And we got to kind of see a lot of that yesterday in their game against Real Madrid. But I just think with Lukaku now, it's a difficult one, because I think obviously the money that we paid for him to come in, 97.5 million, bringing him in, I can't see him going anywhere else now. I can't see him going back to Inter. I don't think they'd want him. I don't know if they can afford him. I don't know I know they were struggling financially this time last season to an extent, which is why I think they decided to sell him in the end as well. But I just don't know where he goes from here now. I don't know whether we need to loan him out. Mandatory option to buy is what I suggested at the weekend. But I think who's going to pick him up? Who's going to pick him up?
I think he needs to go down that route. I think a loan will work best, because you're going to make another loss on him. That for me is quite clear right now. I mean, right now, my team is the king of losses, because if I talk about Paul Pogba,
I'm going to get onto him.
Losing him on a free twice. But anyway, Lukaku, look, it's going to have to be a loan situation. I think he has to understand that as well, because, you were signed, and the football world watches. Football world is not stupid. You were signed as the big man to get Chelsea to that promised land. And arguably, you have not, or you might be one of the worst signings of the season, arguably.
It's a shout.
It could be, because the fee is huge. The fee is huge. And the idea was you helped Inter Milan win a title, which you did. I'm not taking your credit away from that. But if you've helped a team win a title and you're coming to Chelsea, who have already got a good team, and you're now apparently the final final piece to the jigsaw, then you have to help them sustain a title challenge. He's not doing that. So I think a loan might work for him. Where he goes, Bayern wouldn't need him, because he's going to look for another big team. He's not, I don't want to say not humble enough. I think he's still quite a cool guy. It's just, I think he believes that he should be at the best of the best.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think mentally, the ability is there. But when you put that into practice, it's just not there. And I think that's the problem. That is the massive gap. Like I said, when I talk about a Benzema and I talk about Lukaku, you can see the difference in the two of them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. But I do want to talk about Paul Pogba, because again, amongst the Chelsea fan base, there's been talk about whether he would be a brilliant player to come into Chelsea squad. And for the reason being, West Ham game at the weekend, it was one of those games where we just needed someone to unlock the defense. West Ham kind of set up to almost sit back, play for the point, try not to concede. We've got a big game on Thursday against Frankfurt, I think it is. They set up really well. They played really well in that game against Chelsea, but having a Paul Pogba, I spoke at the weekend, having a Cesc Fabregas, having someone like, Juan Mata, these kind of players that can do something, unlock the defense. Paul Pogba, I believe, can do that with just one pass, and to lose him on a free is a bit. I mean, it's like Rudiger for us, in a way. I know there's differences in terms of their age and stuff, but losing Rudiger is massive for Chelsea at the moment. Especially to Real Madrid. Another massive club across Europe. But what's your thoughts, or what's the thoughts on United fans losing Paul Pogba? I feel like it's a weird one, because I feel like sometimes I speak to United fans. Some fans love him. Some fans don't want to see him go. That he's part of the club. He's trying his best, and then you get the other fans who they sound like they just want him gone. He's the problem. Which side are you on, or are you in between on the fence?
Oh no, I'm firmly on Paul Pogba's side. Now,
yeah.
The reason I am is because, look, again, he defies opinion. I'm not ignorant enough to ignore the fact that he hasn't helped himself at times. In his performances, forget about the outside stuff, because his social media presence, which is criticized, is nonsense. Dancing with your family, playing basketball, enjoying life. And the thing is, the United fans loved him for that in the first place. When he first joined the club, Pog back. Oh, what a beautiful introduction. I love the flamboyant hair. I love this. I love that. And then suddenly when the club, it's not Pogba only, when the club is not playing well, Now, as an individual, I've said it. For me, his time at United has been a 6 out of 10. And that might be me being generous. Me, I'm just calling it a 6 out of 10 because I acknowledge the time that he has not done well. I also acknowledge the time that, for example, when we finished second, or was it second? Yeah. Second behind Chelsea under Mourinho. He had a stellar season. The year where Ole finished, I think, second. When did Liverpool win the league? COVID year.
2 years ago, I think, yeah.
2 years ago. We were struggling to qualify for Champions League football, and then he came back from injury, an injury that he was forced back onto the pitch by Ole, and went immediately back into the injury room. He came back, and his performances alone, Fulham away, that team were superb to help us get back into Europe. Now, where I say this about Man United, and very funny enough, I'm going to compare it to Juan Mata. We wasted Juan Mata's time. Let me tell you why.
I'm so glad I'm so glad you said that. But go on.
I don't have to explain to you, and obviously your listeners, because the people that watch this, because it's a Chelsea podcast. But you guys know exactly what he did for your club. I don't have to go into detail about that. So if you sign a player of that quality to your team, you need to build a base around him that makes him click, makes him tick, and makes everybody else go as well. Because not only is he a fantastic player, he's a team player. He's a brilliant footballer, Juan Mata. And in 8 years, because he joined us in 2014, I even forgot it was 2014. That's how crazy it's been.
It's been a long time.
Honestly, in 8 years, we have done just about enough to get an FA Cup, a League Cup, and a Europa League.
Europa League, yep.
Yeah. Right? So now you're bringing Paul Pogba. And again, just like any other player, I always say about even your Messis and Ronaldos, those guys as individuals are phenomenal footballers. But if you put them in a team that just doesn't work, they're not going to achieve much. It's the same reason why at Madrid, after Ronaldo's, I think, second or third year, he made a statement, something along the lines of, we're not going to win anything with this midfield behind me and this defense, so we need to improve it. Pepe stepped up his game. Marcelo saw a lot more left back. Kroos and Modric were brought in, and you immediately saw the difference. There was no doubt about the reason why he said that. So when you bring in Paul Pogba, my first statement was, all right, you've put in Paul Pogba, you now need to build a team around Paul Pogba. I'm not saying Paul Pogba is the be-all and the end-all of it, but when you got a player like Pogba, what you need to do is say, okay, we've got this player who is creative, who can dribble, who can shoot. He almost sounds like the complete footballer. His tackling is very, very questionable. But other than that, he sounds like the complete footballer.
Yeah.
Something around him. And in his 6 years here, we have given him not one consistent partner in midfield. Schweinsteiger came and gone. Herrera came and gone. McTominay, Fred suddenly took his spot or played next to him. Bruno has come in, and then even that, with Pogba now, with Bruno and then McTominay and Fred and this guy and that guy, Matic, it's, Pogba playing left wing, right wing, striker in a 2 alongside Bruno, centre back, all across the midfield in terms of centre attacking, defensive midfield, and a centre midfielder. You haven't built a consistent lineup for him to say, I know my role, and this is where it's going to be. Funny enough, the same thing he said in an interview recently about why he performs for France. He said it. The reason I perform for France is because I know what I'm doing. I know when they need me. So no matter the occasion, no matter the game, I know what I'm doing. And if I play badly, I know it's my fault. Honesty. So when I go to United and I'm playing, one day I'm a black Stuart Downing, and then the next week I'm playing right wing like I'm Pedro, and then I'm playing centre back.
No consistency at all.
No consistency, and it kind of rings true about how Man United have been as well. Inconsistent on the pitch, inconsistent in the transfer window, inconsistent in terms of managerial appointments, because each manager has had way different philosophies to the previous. There has been no consistency at United, and you can't expect your players to perform in an inconsistent environment. It's the same thing you're seeing about Bruno Fernandes now. First year and a half, goals, assists, numbers were high. Even when he played bad, he had the quality to do something. Now, when you look at Bruno Fernandes, he looks a shadow of the player that you saw a year ago. He's not the same man. So you cannot expect him to do the same thing. Marcus Rashford, another one that gets criticized. Funny, fair enough. He hasn't played well. Understandable. But do you expect him to perform in a team where maybe he knows I'm playing left wing, but who's playing behind me this week? Who's playing here this week? Who's playing centre midfield this week? I don't know. Is there a point of me building some sort of cohesion with a team? You cannot expect players to thrive in an environment like that. Messi at Barcelona had the perfect 3 behind him.
Yeah.
If you had McTominay, Fred, and Bruno Fernandes, you wouldn't see Messi doing what he's doing. I mean, as an individual, we can beat players all day long, but to get into those positions, those players wouldn't find him. Absolutely no chance. So, look, as an individual, yes, he's been up and down. That is completely understandable. But what United fans need to understand is when you call a player the problem and you can't really recognize the bigger issues at heart, because to tell you that, you'll hear rants about the Glazers, you'll hear rants about the managers, you hear rants about this player and that player, but you're not calling them the problem. You're calling Paul Pogba the problem. Apparently, Paul Pogba is the issue. And if we get rid of him, you'll see a totally different Man United midfield. That's BS. Because when he didn't play, we were crap.
Still the same.
Exactly. So, you talk about McTominay and Fred. McTominay's got the passion, this, that, and the other. That's the same thing United fans criticized Herrera for. And you hounded Herrera out of the club, myself included. I wasn't his biggest fan because I didn't think he had that much quality about him. But have we improved on him in McTominay and Fred?
It's a fair shout.
Yeah. Exactly. So, now you got United fans effing and jeffing at Pogba because apparently getting injured against Liverpool is not good enough an excuse to come off the pitch. Legitimately injured as well, because he was injured after 2 minutes and he tried to play for an extra 8 minutes. So he didn't coward out. They boo him, they F him, attempt to F off, sorry, all that rubbish. And I'm just like, your energy is not the same. It's very, very inconsistent. Now, if we go into deeper issues, I'm just going to say this as well for anyone that doesn't know. In Premier League history, Man United have had the most arrests for racial abuse. Just going to put that out there.
I did know that, but yeah.
That's not only a Pogba issue, by the way, but I'm just going to put that out there. So, look, that's not me saying the whole Man United fan base is racist, because I'm not. But, the point being, look, they can blame him all he wants and all they want. And funny enough, the year he's leaving is the year that we actually get a manager, I think, that has a game plan to get the best out of a player like Pogba. So I've said, if he talks to Pogba, I mean, I expect Pogba to go. I expect him to go for a while, but I've seen more shocking things in football. If he suddenly stays because
could be a U-turn.
Yeah, you talk to the manager, and the manager tells you this is what you're gonna do. And Ten Hag has a good history of signing players and putting them where exactly they need to be. If he talks to him and he says that, and Pogba looks at his options and says maybe it's best for me to stay at Man United, then so be it. but I expect him to go. And funny enough, I think if he goes to a PSG or Real Madrid, I think he's going to end up winning the Champions League at one of those clubs.
It's a fair shout. I mean, I prefer him at Chelsea, but it's a fair shout, 100%.
Take him, and then punish me in the Premier League. Take him.
I think he's another missing piece. I think looking back, Conor Gallagher coming back into that Chelsea team as well. There's still a lot of work. I mean, we spoke a lot on this podcast about having depth in the squad, which I think we've got. That's undoubtable. We could put out two teams. The problem is it's not the quality that you need to be able to win a Premier League or win the Champions League consistently as well. You might win it off the off chance like we did last season with, the run that we did. That goal was brilliant goal from Havertz in against Man City. But to do that consistently over the next couple of years and to still push on, like really when you win the Champions League, you either win it again or you go and win your domestic league.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that this season because of obvious a lot of reasons. I think the sanctions that we've got currently, I think they've played a massive part. There's loads of things that we've spoken about on here already before, but I do think if we're going to get this right with these new owners coming in now, it's those kind of players that I would probably look at and go, well, I think when we signed Cesc Fabregas, he wasn't prime Cesc Fabregas. It wasn't the Arsenal. It was the guy that had been. He was kind of not at the back end of his career, but he had a couple of more mileage in him. He could still do a job and I think Paul Popper's the same. You look at N'Golo Kante as well. That link up there with the French connection, and also with Kante as well. If I'm honest, I think he's played through this season with an injury.
Okay.
Because you can just look at the way sometimes he's playing. I said at the weekend as well that I think this is his worst season in the Premier League for both Leicester and Chelsea. I think he's had the worst season. I personally think he's playing through some sort of injury, but I might be wrong. But I think having a Popper in that midfield changes everything. It changes everything for Mason Mount. It changes it for the strikers, potentially Lukaku if he's still there. All of these players that we're talking about that have got the quality, Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech, they're all good players, but sometimes you just need someone to be able to feed that perfect ball through, and we don't have that. That is what we don't have. Mason Mount, every now and again, he can do that, or Jorginho, every now and again, he can do that. But for someone to be able to do what the qualities that you describe Popper with, bar the tackling, but everything else that he can do, it's Paul Popper. I think someone else said Christian Eriksen, but for me, Paul Popper is the one. If we can get him, I'd be happy days. But I think Real Madrid, PSG would be the ones knocking and calling and the more desirable destinations. But let's move it over to tomorrow, because obviously big game for both of us. I know obviously still, in terms of the objective for United, it's a bit of a crazy one for United, because if you don't, which very unrealistically, you're potentially going to miss out on top four. But if you do that, it almost... Getting into Europa League is probably, I'm going to ask you the question, but I would say if it was Chelsea, I'd rather miss out on Europa League, as mad as that sounds, but I'd rather miss out on Europa League and potentially the Europa League conference as well. I'd just rather be in 9th or 10th. Is that what a United fan would say? Do you reckon you as a United fan would say, if we don't make Champions League, Europa League is brilliant.
Yeah.
But you've got to think about those Thursday nights, Sunday playing catch up, then you've got to have the quality, and I think it goes back to that quality and depth in the squad to be able to manage those games that you're playing on the Thursday night and the Sundays. What's your aspects, or I suppose how many games is it now? 4 or 5 games left? How many games, however many are left? What do you think United should be trying to do? Is top 4 completely done and dusted for United fans?
I think it is for the majority, myself included. The reason why I also don't really count us out just yet, is because Tottenham and Arsenal are just as inconsistent as Man United. And I don't like saying we have the easiest games, because every team still has to work for something. I mean, for example, Newcastle, we don't play Newcastle anymore, but Newcastle
do really well.
They've gone from bottom to potentially in the top 10. They're 9th right now.
Yeah.
That's a goal for them. If they can go from being nearly rock bottom to finishing in the top 10, that's an incredible achievement for a club that was looking to be in a relegation battle this season. So, for Man United playing the teams that they have to play against in the last 5, on paper look easy, but they're not easy. So, like, I mean, for example, Norwich at Old Trafford, 3-2. You know, they had something to fight for. We should be putting them away 2-0 up. They shouldn't have to come back into the game whatsoever, but they had something to fight for. Been told I could talk about how poor Man United were, but Norwich has something to do. So, the only reason why I want to counter is because Arsenal fans are happy right now. They beat you guys, they beat us guys, but they also lost to Brighton. They also lost to Southampton. They also lost to Crystal Palace. And when we saw they had the games in hand earlier on in the season, everyone was talking about Man United and Chelsea being the hardest games for them. What turned out to be the hardest games for them were actually the games that they lost, and against the teams that they were expected to get at least maybe 7 points against. So no, I don't count this out. But when it comes to the whole Champions League, Europa League, and dare I say the Conference League, I'm not a fan of all that dropping out of Europe thing. My philosophy is try and win every game. I don't care what it is. Whatever the consequence may be, you gotta try and win every game, because I understand it. You know, you Thursday night football is not the most exciting. So you're playing every Sunday, you know, you're worried about fatigue, you're worried about this, that, and the other. And the obvious thing being Europa League and the Conference League are nowhere near the attraction the Champions League is. I understand Man United fans saying if we finish 8th or 9th, 10th, it doesn't bother me because we're not playing in those two competitions. But as a new manager coming in, I would hope that the club or the players that I have, or the very few players I will have after some of them leave, will have enough ambition to want, or drive, or hunger to win every game, regardless of the situation.
It's true. Because, it's true.
You know, I would hate the idea that Man United players, as badly as I think of them already, would come out onto the pitch and think about maybe not getting the maximum points in the game because it means they could avoid playing Conference League or Europa League.
It's still a competition at the end of the day, isn't it? Still brings money into the club as well. So there's a lot of incentives as well.
Exactly. You know, you gotta respect the competitions you're part of. That's the be all and end all of that. If you're there, it's because you deserve to be there. So don't now, because you know you're so close to it, don't now say, you know, I want to avoid that. So I want to, you know, put myself out there. The fans shouldn't have that same mentality either. I know where it comes from, but they shouldn't. And I don't think Ranić, even though he's an interim, I don't think he would ever set up a team to go out and lose. Ronaldo would dare not have that either. He's not.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So no, I don't believe in that. I understand it, but you know, Man United fans will say that when we got to the final against Villarreal, the fan base was excited. They wanted a trophy. Obviously, we bottled that, but they wanted a trophy. They wanted something back into in the club. You know, same thing as Barcelona when they got knocked out of the Champions League. Everyone was mocking them. They saw it as an opportunity to add the final trophy that they've never won because they're hardly ever in that competition. You know, so even though they got knocked out, they saw that as a shame when they got knocked out because you complete the whole trophy set. Chelsea have won it a couple of times in the last 10 years. And I don't see there's any shame in that. I don't think there's any shame in that because winning it, one, propels you into the Champions League anyway. And it's not guaranteed that Man United get Champions League football next season anyway. So we're talking like that. You can't say you're going to avoid it because we sign players and fight for top four. What's the guarantee that you finish there? Because you can say Man United are going to spend. Chelsea will spend. Liverpool have already started spending with Fabio Carvalho as a young kid.
Yeah, good signing.
Exactly. Man City are looking at Erling Haaland. Arsenal will definitely spend. Tottenham will spend because if they don't spend, Conte will leave. You know, so you can't.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
You can't sit. Even West Ham. West Ham are in the semi-finals of the Europa League, and they are. I think they're out of the race for the top four now, but they've been fighting for it from the beginning of the season. So you can't now, you know, put this idea in your
turn
head.
Your nose up.
Yeah, like we're still Man United. We haven't been Man United since Ferguson left.
That's a good point.
So you can't put your nose up to that. We need to fight for everything we can for. So, you know, I've said I think Man United might actually end up in the Conference League, but if they do, they better try and win that. Once I don't rate the competition, that's something you better put your head down and say I want to win.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm gonna give you some news that I think is kind of happening now. Maguire's out of the game tomorrow. I put your lineup up that you predicted earlier. But I think Ragnick's just literally confirmed that Maguire's out with a knee injury. So I'm going to allow you to. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know if tell me if the formation's wrong. We can tweak that. But Maguire out. Who you bringing in?
Lindelof.
Okay. Would you have that as a 2 there? Maybe the 3 here? Or would you have the 3?
Nah, that's how United line up. So that's perfect.
But I mean, talk me through your lineup, because obviously it is kind of self-explanatory. But
I mean, I've grown tired of putting the team that I hope would start, because a lot of the players that I want to start are not available or they won't be here. Like James Garner, for example, he's on loan at Nottingham Forest. Yeah, very good player. So I'm a big fan of his. But I've gone for this team because it's expected. I think Varane keeps his place as long as he's fit. I think Luke Shaw has had his surgery earlier in April. It was supposed to be 2 or 3 weeks, and they said he'll miss Liverpool and Arsenal. They didn't mention Chelsea, so I'm assuming he's back in training and he's raring to go. But if not, obviously it would be Telles, but I'm assuming he'll start. Dalot I'd keep, because I think we just need to go for it. Wan-Bissaka is not a right back that will help you essentially go for it. And Lindelof is self-explanatory. Eric Bailly is not going to see the pitch. I think it's alarming when Phil Jones starts ahead of you. And that's not a disrespect to Phil Jones, because I'm going to say this right now. The last 2 appearances that Phil Jones has had this season,
he's done well.
He's done very well. He's actually outdone anything Maguire's done, unless you count Tranmere in the FA Cup when he scored a long range banger. But it's Tranmere. As long as Fred and McTominay are fit, that's a given. So I think Fred posted on Instagram, I think a day or 2 ago, that he's back in training. So he looks like he's ready to go. Bruno Fernandes will never lose his spot, despite the fact that I feel like he should. I don't care how old Mata is. I would start Mata in this game, but that's me. I think Rashford will get his place back ahead of Elanga. Sancho should start this game. If he does not start, that's embarrassing. Not for him, for Rangnick and the club. And, Ronaldo, who has also been called a problem because apparently a certain French number 9 who's wasting Sevilla's time should be starting ahead of him. Ronaldo should definitely be starting at number 9. So, yeah, that's the team for the Chelsea game tomorrow.
It's interesting. I'm gonna pull mine up, but I do wonder with Thomas Tuchel, because he's very unpredictable. It's hard to predict a Thomas Tuchel lineup. I expect 5 at the back. I expect Mendy to keep his place in goal. Again, that's a given. I did have Kepa in there at the weekend. Ahead of him, only because of I think Mendy's played a lot of football. You think back to the African Cup of Nations, you think back to all these big games that he's played, but he's a goalkeeper. You expect him to be able to do that through a season. So I've kept Mendy back in here anyway. It's going to be interesting whether Thomas Tuchel switches Reece James to right centre back and plays Azpilicueta here, or maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's played at right wing back as well. Okay. I do get the feeling that Thomas Tuchel is testing out whether Reece James can play there throughout a season if we don't sign the defenders that we want to try and sign in the summer, with Rudiger leaving as well. Obviously, Silva, we're going for another year, and the same with Azpilicueta, another year, but he needs to start thinking the next 2-3 years, do we bring in a right wing back who could potentially, it might be easy to bring in a right wing back as opposed to trying to get one of your, a Koundé or Wesley Fofana. If we don't get any of those two, Reece James might be the option with maybe Loftus-Cheek at right wing back. I don't know. But for this game anyway, I've gone for James Chalobah, who for me, I'm surprised he's not starting as many games as he has been. I know he was out injured slightly earlier in the season, but he's been fit enough. He should be back in the team for me. Silva and Rudiger, it's a given. I think them two have got the best partnership in that back three. Yeah. Alonso, again, he puts in good performances. We saw that again against West Ham as well. So, and if we're being honest, it's him and Kennedy. Maybe Azpilicueta can play there as well. So I'd keep Alonso there. Okay. It's tough in midfield because I feel like Ruben Loftus-Cheek deserves to be in it. But I think for the game tomorrow, you do need, I don't want to say your most experienced midfield, obviously Kovacic being out, but you do need 2 players that are going to be able to, again, unlock something. And I think Jorginho can do that. I think Kante tomorrow is going to have to be the Kante that we know he can be and has been. I think he can't be losing possession in midfield because it's going to be tough and challenging against United. I don't think we've won at Old Trafford since 2013 or something like that. I think we've got a we've got a really bad record at Old Trafford. So that midfield is going to be key tomorrow. Whoever Thomas Tuchel goes with, it's got to be key. The only change I've done up front, and I know anyone who's watched these videos before, I'm always screaming about consistency with the front three. I have changed it for once. I've taken out Werner, I've put Pulisic in. I think Thomas Tuchel will have his eye on Sunday's game against Everton, which is still a big game. Yeah. They're down there. They're going to be wanting 3 points. They're going to be fighting. It's Frank Lampard against Chelsea as well. That's going to be a really difficult game. So I think, and again, you know, if we can go 2-0 up in this game tomorrow, 3-0 up, something, you know, cushy sort of second half, I can see a lot of these players, if it starts like this, coming off and getting rested for Sunday, because I think that's, as mad as it sounds, that's a bigger game, more so because of Everton and the predicament there, and you know they're going to need points. So Havertz and Mount, Pulisic is a front three for me, but we'll have to see, man. I think whichever the case, yeah, 2000. I'm pretty sure it's 2013, the last time we won at Old Trafford. I think there's been a couple of draws. One that sticks out was I think it was Frank Lampard, the 4-0. I'm sure it was the opening game of the season or second game of the season or something like that.
Yeah, first one,
it was the first game, and we got hammered 4-0. So I think there's been a lot of draws at Old Trafford, but we're due a win. Man. Before we wrap up, obviously I like to do predictions, so I'm going to go for you first. What do you think the result's going to be tomorrow?
Quickly before I say that, I just found out that Sancho's out with tonsillitis. So looks like it's gonna be
result.
It looks like it's gonna be Rashford and Elanga on the wings.
I don't mind Elanga though. I think Elanga's a really good player. I think I'd be interested to watch him next season.
Oh yeah, I mean he's talented, and that's more you can ask from a youngster. Again, Man United fans lack patience, so you know they're already saying he won't make. He's not good enough. I'm like, well, the guy's only 18, 19. So I mean, if you just
I've watched him a lot for under 23s, and he's a really good player, really good. I know it's under 23s, but he's been able to project and get himself into the senior team. It's all about time and giving him that patience as well.
Precisely. So I've got time for him. Predictions. Do I be the silly, enthusiastic, hopeful Man United fan again, or do I be realistic? Let's be silly. I'm gonna go 2-1 Man United. It'll be I think it's gonna be a close game. My head is saying 2-1 Chelsea, but you can put both predictions out there. But I'll back my team for this one. Hopefully they can get a win so we can try and push this top 4 race in a while.
I'm gonna go 1-1. I think I said this morning I'm gonna go 1-1. I don't know what it is about Old Trafford. We just don't. Obviously, like I said, we don't have a really good record there. There's a lot of draws there as well. I think the fact that both teams aren't, I mean, bar the 4-0, I don't think there's been that many high scoring games at Old Trafford against the two clubs as well. I might be wrong. But I'm going to go 1-1. I think it's going to be not a boring game, not as boring as West Ham, but I think it's going to be a game where it's going to be very cagey. I don't think it'd be very defensive. I think for both teams, neither team's going to want to lose this. I think we'll happily take a point at this point. United are kind of in that sort of nothing to play for kind of, top 4 seems to have kind of gone, but so I think United potentially maybe try. I don't know. I can see it being very cagey. 1-1. Like I said before, I think Sunday for Chelsea anyway is a massive game because I think Everton are going to be out. And to be fair, Everton played really well against Liverpool. I thought they were unlucky. I thought they should have had a penalty. It's a different story for a different video. But my point is that I think they'll be up for that game. Lampard, obviously, with the history of Chelsea. So I think if we can, ideally, my heart as well is saying maybe a 3-0, 2-0 to Chelsea. If it's 2 or 3-0 and we can rest, Kai Havertz, maybe bring off Thiago Silva, Jorginho, someone like that. If we can bring those players off, then I'll be happy. But I'll be honest, I wouldn't take a point. I'm lying to myself. I want 3 points, but if it's 1-1, I'm not going to be completely disheartened. But at this time in the season, I don't expect us to be dropping points. Arsenal, Tottenham aren't that far behind, so it's going to be a crucial game. But in my mind already, it's already on Sunday. If I'm being honest,
I think it will be crazy of Chelsea not to try and go and attack United in this game. I mean, maintain structure and all that. Absolutely, you make compact where you need to be, but you need to go for the kill because this Man United is vulnerable as hell. Doesn't matter what the lineup is; it's very, very vulnerable. I would. Pulisic, to be honest, it doesn't matter if it's Pulisic or Werner. Dalot's not great defensively, so I would target that side. I think United are definitely going to target Alonso's side because he's obviously the weaker defender. But yeah, I think you got to go for the kill. Kante is a problem, but I feel like he's been a problem defensively because he's being left in situations of one-on-ones where Kante's always been the chaser of the ball. He wins the ball. But if you put him in a situation where it's 2 versus 1 and he goes towards the ball, which he naturally does, I don't think he's the sole reason why he lost against Brentford, but that's an example for me. 2 of the goals he conceded, he didn't know what to do. And he eventually went to the ball and left the man by himself in the box. And it was an easy goal for Brentford. So if Man United had Pogba available, I would say target him. But they don't. So, no, I say target Alonso and target Dalot, but I feel like he'll have more joy in this game. If you do not go for the kill, you don't win this game. You have to go for it. I'll be actually disappointed as a football fan watching if Chelsea don't go to Old Trafford and say, you're vulnerable as hell. We're confirming our top 4 spot. We're coming for the kill. We're coming to kill you. Game done. See you later. I'll be very surprised.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Kojo, man.
I hope I'm wrong.
just let the listeners know as well where they can hear yourself again. I know you said it at the start of this, but just at the very end, just again, where can people catch you? What are you on? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, so firstly I'll plug my podcast Free in Midfield. That's on all the socials. YouTube is Free in Midfield space podcast. So anyone that's watching this below, my name, there we go, Free in Midfield, that just like that. And then podcast on YouTube as well. I am on Don Robbie sometimes for Man United, Don Robbie Sports. So I don't know if I'm going to be on for the game tomorrow because I haven't got a message yet. So I'm assuming they got their lineup sorted for that. So regardless, support the boys. But if I'm on there tomorrow, yeah, maybe catch me on there tomorrow as well. So anywhere else? Usman's channel, Stel's channel as well. Shoot the defense every now and then when I'm blessed by his WhatsApp message to come through. Yeah, that's me really and truly. So and big up you as well, and big up the Shed as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. And again, appreciate you coming on. Obviously, I don't want to big you up too much until after the game. But no, appreciate you coming on. Obviously it's taking the time out and hopefully it's an entertaining game anyway. I think that's the main thing, isn't it? I don't want another West Ham putting me to sleep. But anyone who is new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash the like button as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about what we've discussed as well today. And as you can see at the top of the screen there's all our social platforms, so please make sure you follow those as well. Episode 60 of From the Shed End is also out, so Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcast, make sure you go and listen to that as well. We will have the next episode out next week, but until next time, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and hopefully we get 3 points against Man United.